We're in Republika Srpska, one of Bosnia's two autonomous entities that make up the whole country. And we'll look for Spomeniks for a few days. I don't know, 5, 6 days? This is a newer Spomenik, not one of the Yugoslav classics that we're looking for. This one is dedicated to the Serb fighters of the Bosnian War. We're in Novi Grad, by the way, right on the border with Croatia. This town is like surrounded by the Una River. You know the Una River from my last video. There's some kind of marinated Una River fish in town that everyone's talking about, and I'm hoping this restaurant has it. So marinada, this local fish I'm eating, it's defined as fish marinade. It's freshly caught, small fish from the river Una, right here, and cooked for several hours in a deep dish with vegetables. It's a local specialty. It's really good. And I also got some paprikash. By the way, it's a holiday today and tomorrow. Petrovdan, Feast of Saints Peter and Paul. So this feast, which starts today, July 11th, officially it's July 12th, that's the feast day. It's celebrated throughout Republika Srpska, one of the two entities that make up Bosnia. I'm going to stop saying that. You get it. There's two autonomous entities, make up the country. We're in Republika Srpska. So this is the Serbian part of Bosnia. The other part of Bosnia, the Bosniak part of Bosnia, on this very day is celebrating the 28th anniversary of the Srebrenica massacre. So this is Novi Grad. Spent last night here. We'll spend one more night. Maybe do a little jaunt today by car to see another Spomenik. Until the Bosnian War, this town was called Bosanski Novi. But the Serbs changed the name to Novi Grad to distance the town from its Bosnian history, let's say, and in keeping with war politics. Thanks to the Bosnian War, there was a huge intake of ethnic Serbs into Novi Grad and Republika Srpska generally, and Bosniaks and Croats were expelled. Walking through what looks to be an abandoned Muslim gravesite here on the way to a Spomenik. This is the Partisan Mother. It's a 7-meter tall bronze sculpture, and she symbolizes a mom who protects and nourishes her partisan children. There'll be a concert on this brutalist-looking stage tonight, 8 o'clock. This is the old library. This is the Novi Grad beach on the Una River, where you can swim across to Croatia. But seriously, they're telling me that you could swim to Croatia. Croatia doesn't mind, as long as you stay in the beach area and then you swim back. There's the bridge to Croatia, and right on the other side is the Novi Grad City Hall. Moorish style. it's such a laid-back border. It's so interesting. A non-EU, non-Schengen country, Bosnia, border with Croatia, EU Schengen, and people are just going back and forth under the bridge. They're swimming. The border between Romania and Ukraine, they'd shoot you. This is the abandoned brutalist Una Hotel, built 1984. During the Bosnian War in the 90s, this hotel was shut down and the building was taken over by the army of Republika Srpska. And they used it as a detention center and apparently a place to torture people. Now this hotel has been for sale pretty much ever since, and nobody wants it, I guess. The beach at Hotel Una seems to be a bit hipper than the city beach we just saw before. This is where we're staying at, by the way. So we're gonna get in the car and drive about 20 minutes, still within the municipality of Novi Grad, to see a large Spomenik Freedom Hill monument. We've arrived atop Glegino Brdo, Glegino Hill. And this Spomenik, I'm going to tell you all about it thanks to my Spomeniks database Bible. It's called Freedom Hill Monument, and it's located on top of this hill, Glegino Brdo. It was designed by Ahmed Basic. It's 10 meters high, poured concrete and rebar. Now the story behind it: once the independent state of Croatia was formed, the NDH, the population here quickly banded together to form resistance movements against this oppression. In the Bosnian region of Bosanska Krajina, which is where we are now, some of the first organized rebel activity occurred around the small town of Dobrojen, and now this village is part of Novi Grad. This resistance was thanks in large part to a Bosnian Serb, Mirko Zec. Raised in a modest farming family, in 1938 he left to serve in the Yugoslav Royal Army. On his return, he worked in the local coal mines, and he was very respected by the community. He was a natural leader who had a reputation as an advocate for workers' rights. And on July 27th, 1941, he gathered a small group of fighters at Glegino Brdo, where they planned the region's first resistance efforts against the Ustaša militia. 4 days later, on July 31st, a small detachment of Ustaša soldiers arrived in Dobrojen, where they were immediately ambushed and killed by Zec and his comrades. And this action instigated a widespread uprising against occupying Axis and Ustaša forces across the region. Zec, along with thousands of other Bosnian rebels and dissidents, joined the communist-led partisan resistance movement. And in 1942, Zec was promoted to commander of the 3rd Battalion, 1st Krajina Brigade. He was promoted again in 1944. He was killed in 1945 in a town of Kozluk. Anyway, this Spomenik on Glegino Hill marks the location of the region's first uprising in July 1941. It's 34 Celsius again. You know what I want to do?
Jump in Una?
Yeah, I want to do what you want to do. I think it's time to touch the Una River. Time to see how cold this Una River really is. They all say it's freezing. So this is Bosnia beach crawl, beach number 6. People really are swimming from Bosnia to Croatia. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. It's a little cold.
Go to Croatia.
See you in Croatia.
Bye.
Happy Petrovdan.
Happy Petrovdan.
We're gonna see what's going on in town in honor of Saints Peter and Paul. Tuesday? Today's Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
Okuplja oko 400 članova u nekoliko sekcija, od kojih je najbrojnija folklorna.
For dinner, trying a Leskovački uštipsi. You know the uštipsi. It was always bread everywhere we've been in Bosnia, but this one's meat. Well, Leskovac is known for its meat. That's a city in Serbia. They're calling this cicvara. And my breakfast is omas, whatever that is. While you're looking at it. Now, there's noodles in here. We're leaving Novi Grad. What are your top 10 favorite things about Novi Grad?
Top 10?
Top 10.
Well, Una is pretty cool. Swimming in Una.
Okay, Una, 10 times over, Una.
I can
You can go on?
Yes.
Okay. So we're driving today to the largest city in Republika Srpska, second largest city in Bosnia, Banja Luka. And along the way, we will stop at Spomeniks, some Yugoslav monuments. Half hour down the road took us to the village of Veliko Palančište. Right next to the church of the Holy Apostles, Peter and Paul, is this partisan memorial graveyard. This is the Puharine Cemetery, and the central element is this wire sculpture from 1963. 7 male and female partisans, all holding hands and waving their flag. This cemetery is the resting place for the remains of 464 civilians of this village who were massacred during World War II. And this inscription under the wire sculpture reads, roughly in English, "We are brothers under Kozara, where mothers do not give birth to traitors." The fascist nationalist Ustaše were the ones responsible for the massacre here. October 20th, 1942, saw the largest number of victims killed right pretty much at this spot. Just noticed on the map, 10 minutes down the road is another partisan memorial graveyard. So we'll stop and see it. I don't know anything about it, but it's on the way. Why not? More mention of Kozara on this obelisk. We're going to get to that soon. We're going to visit a giant monument in Kozara. Patience. So this is the Partisan Memorial Cemetery. We're in a town called Prijedor. And 1960. Up there's a hammer and sickle up there. Some gears. pitchfork and guns, I guess, symbolizing peasants. There's a partisan star at the top. This is the same artist who created the partisan mother monument in Novi Grad. Marian Kockovic. Google Maps says there's another monument 5 minutes down the road, same town, Prijedor. What a town. Before we get to the Yugoslav monument, we have here a memorial to those locals who died here during the Bosnian War. Let's take a closer look at some of these faces. And here we have a monument to fallen fighters of World War II, 1963. Or perhaps 1968. Here again, Kozaro. All right, I'm gonna take you to Kozara. Enough fucking around. We're gonna go to the real Spomenik of the day. It's a mountain. Kozara is a mountain. Nice stairs. They almost look like seating for an amphitheater. Oh, let the Kozara pilgrimage begin. This is the Monument to the Revolution in Kozara National Park. 1972 by Dusan Jamonia. 33 meters high, 8 meters wide. You'll get a sense of the 33 meters once Bianca gets right up against it. And here's the story. In 1942, after the partisans had liberated several towns in the central and west Bosnian regions, Axis Command realized that its regional headquarters at Banja Luka could come under attack. So in response to this threat, they launched the Kozara Offensive, mobilizing 15,000 German, 22,000 Ustaše, and 2,000 Chetnik troops, supported by 5 Hungarian gunships on the Sava River. Their objective? Eliminate the partisans and any support they might have in the villages of the Kozara region. Against them stood the regional partisan resistance forces consisting of only 3,000 soldiers, aided by 60,000 untrained civilian volunteers, mostly ethnic Serbs. On June 10th, 1942, Axis forces began their siege of the partisan headquarters in the Mrakovica area of the Kozara mountain. That's where we are now. The conflict, which lasted around 2 months, eventually saw the defeat of the partisans. During the course of the offensive, 2,100 partisan fighters perished, while 25,000 mostly ethnic Serb civilians were killed, and 40,000 transferred to the notorious Ustaše concentration camps. It's tight inside. There's a bit of an echo. And look at that, it's so tight Bianca can't even get in.
I can, but I don't want my clothes to get dirty.
What?
I'm wearing black, I don't want my clothes to get dirty, that's why.
There's a ladder all the way to the top. All right, let's see if you can get out. That's easy.
Yeah, it is.
The 900 partisan survivors went on to form the 5th Krajina Brigade, and their commander, Josip Tito, moved from east to west Bosnia to reorganize his remaining forces. So, while this was a significant defeat for the partisans, it became an important component of Yugoslav post-war mythology, which celebrated the bravery and the selflessness of the partisan soldiers who gave their lives to fight fascism in the face of overwhelming odds. If you want to read every word I just said there, check out Spomenik Monument Database. There's a museum down here, also designed by Dusan. The museum is closed, so now No stop till Banja Luka. We'll stay there for 3 nights. Now you know what Banja Luka looks like from our $25 a night apartment. If you see Tesla, there's a good chance you're back in Serb land and Republika Srpska. Srpska probably is most accurately translated as Serb land. Banja Luka was known throughout Yugoslavia for its wide avenues that were tree-lined. So we're staying right on the Vrbaš River, which we're crossing right now to Borik district. Borik district has a number of, socialist block housing that turns out makes great canvases for street art. So, looking for big works of art. You know what else Banja Luka is known for?
Banja Luka Cevapi.
Banja Luka Cevapi. They have their own style of cevapi here. And that's what we're gonna eat tonight. Oh, I'm gonna eat it, not the vegetarian. Here's the Yugoslav-era building, housing the Museum of Republika Srpska. We're approaching the Castel Fortress. This is a renovated medieval fort, not perched on a hill the way you'd expect a fort to be, but level with the road. And there's a reason for that. It wasn't built to protect the city from invaders. It was built to protect the road. The Roman salt route ran right through Banja Luka. Sign in front of the fort that says it's the oldest historical monument in Banja Luka. First traces of settlements on the site of today's fortress date back to the Paleolithic era. The fortress began to be built more intensively during the Turkish occupation, 1574-ish. We're not here to see the fort. One of the oldest restaurants in Banja Luka is inside the fort walls, and that's where we're getting our Banja Luka cevapi. This restaurant was built inside a tunnel under the fort. It was used for shelter for bombings, warehousing. Here it is, Banja Luka cevapi. You see how it's different? So normally cevapi is served as sort of separate ground beef fingers, let's call it. But Banja Luka cevapi, the fingers are connected to form a large patty. And they're tucked into this bread here. And there's French fries and onions, kaimak. And what did Bianca get?
Mushrooms with kaimak and shopskas.
Wow. It's gonna be a party tonight. 2 stages are getting set up inside the castle. Tonight is the weekly 10 p.m. Thursday night concerts. This Ottoman era mosque was constructed from 1579. In the front courtyard is this 12-piped fountain fed by a natural spring. This mosque was destroyed May 6th, May 8th, 1993, Bosnian War. Reconstruction of the mosque began in 2007. This is Gradska Tržnica. Giant farmer's market. We'll check it out in the next day or two. Socialist modernism. Boska was completed in 1978. It was one of the largest shopping malls in Yugoslavia at the time. A friend told me in Neum that this city, Banja Luka, has something like a 7-to-1 girls to guys ratio. Throughout this possibly too short visit, I will be investigating, and I will report back to you. I don't know how scientific this study is, but at this supermarket, the ratio is 10 to 1. I'm the one.
Noćas izništavila, opet kreće lavina, srce opet predosjeća.
Kramporusha, like a potato pie, borek, for breakfast. And here's the biggest farmer's market in Banja Luka.
I daćeš mi 200 grama ovi, a koliko ti ovdje što 200?
And there's a section for clothes. Boska again. You saw it yesterday from the other side. An old advertisement for a Yugoslav travel agency. This clock is a little monument to the 1969 earthquake. And it shows the time the tragedy occurred. Walking down a pedestrian street called Gentleman's Street. The street is known for its Art Nouveau architecture, but the flowers, the shade structure above the street masks all of the buildings. This cathedral was built in the 20s and then bombed by the Germans in 1941, further demolished by hand by the Croatians, and then finally reopened in 2009. Yeah, so after this cathedral was bombed by the Germans, the Ustasha government of the independent state of Croatia, the Axis puppet state, ordered that the temple be completely destroyed by Serbs, Jews, and Roma, gypsies. Between the cathedral and the cultural center are some of the original pieces of the Orthodox cathedral. Cultural center, City Hall, this is the palace of the president of Republika Srpska. National Theater. This is the best thing I've seen in Banja Luka so far. It's the Cathedral of St. Bonaventure. There are only 4 Roman Catholic cathedrals in all of Bosnia. And what makes this one extra special is that it was built during the communist Yugoslav time. That is a very rare thing to occur. The reason the communist government gave permission for this church to be built was that it was replacing one that stood here and was destroyed by the 1969 earthquake. This church was completed in 1973, and it's meant to double as a monument to the earthquake. It is shaped as a tent because many residents here, after the earthquake, were forced to live in tents. That's the theory anyway. And of course, since this was designed during Yugoslav days, it is in socialist modernist style. Now you know what a communist church looks like. This is the National Assembly of Republika Srpska. But it used to be an old military house from 1973. And look at this giant bronze relief sculpture on the side here. Yugoslav-era. This is unusual. It's a post-Yugoslav-era World War II Spomenik in remembrance of the victims of Jasenovac. Jasenovac, of course, is the site of one of the most notorious concentration camps of World War II. It was run by Ustasha, who were known to be more cruel than the Nazis. They made the Nazis sick to their stomachs. I can't say for certain, but because this is right next to a church, nice looking church with that, I'm gonna say it's a bishop's house, just because it reminds me of the kind of grandeur we see in Vršac, where we live. Bishop's house, nicest house in town. Nicest house in town, bishop's house. I've noticed a lot of images of Ratko Mladic here in Republika Srpska. To a lot of people here, he's kind of like a folk hero, you know, looking after the interests of the minority Bosnian Serb population. To others, he's a genocidal maniac who was found guilty of war crimes by the International Criminal Tribunal of former Yugoslavia. Yugoslav-era school building decorated with American cartoons from the era. Donald Duck and Dopey and Bambi, Mickey. Heading to lunch, the restaurant's in Borik, the district I was telling you about yesterday, the street art capital of Banja Luka. I like this one. It's a melting piano, very appropriate. It's 35 Celsius again today. Time to say goodbye to Bianca.
Goodbye.
She's gonna go check out a supermarket. Today is our last day in Banja Luka, and I haven't shown you any Yugoslav-era Spomeniks yet. So let's do that. So there was a guard about 2 miles down at the bottom of the hill. He didn't want us to go. We just kept grinning like idiots, waving our hands, shaking our heads no. We don't understand. He finally let us go. We just came up to a hotel, Villa Forest, bought some apple juice. I said, how did you get up here? Because we had our car with us. You can't drive up here. Used my brain, that's how. Anyway, these last 15 minutes, we got to walk up to the Spomenik. It's 34 Celsius. Today's Saturday. Monday, it's supposed to hit over 40. Be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the monument to the fallen Krajina fighters. It was created from 1948 to 1961 by Antun Augustincic. You've seen one of his works on a Tito statue. He was considered to be Croatia's greatest sculptor at the time. It's 13 meters tall, 24 meters long, and it honors those of the Bosnian Krajina region who fought, fell, and suffered during World War II. April 9th, Banja Luka was occupied by German army troops and was then integrated into the newly formed country of the independent nation of Croatia, the NDH, administered by the Ustaše. In response to resistance efforts by partisan rebel forces, the Ustaše and Germans retaliated against the local population. A particularly grisly retaliation took place February 7th, 1942. 2,300 ethnic Serb civilians, including hundreds of women and children, were executed, all in one day, and without bullets, per direction from the notorious Ustaše commissioner Viktor Gutic. 2,300 ethnic Serb civilians were killed with knives and axes and other such weapons. Punch a Nazi. And this Spomenik overlooks the city of Banja Luka. So there are some hot springs coming out right on the Vrbas River here. The area of Banja Luka and its surroundings, lots of thermal mineral springs. And they've been used since ancient times. It's public baths for hygiene, leisure, health. And we're in Srpske Toplice, the center of old Banja Luka. Hot water is flowing from 8 springs and the temperature is up to 35 Celsius. It flows right into the freezing river, Vrbas. So we'll call that Bosnia Beach Crawl, beach number 7. Everywhere we're driving around Bosnia, I see these billboards for lamb. Haven't had any lamb yet. The skin is crunchy. It's perfect. Banja Luka Pivara, Banja Luka Brewery, was founded 150 years ago, 1873, by the Trappist order. It's a bunch of monks. They make nectar beer. You've seen us drink it. Anyway, we're not going to that brewery. We are going to a brewery, not that one. We're going to one about 5 minutes walking distance from our house. Mastercraft Brewery IPA, only 6% alcohol. You can drink this all night long. It's 39 degrees Celsius. It's hot. So we're leaving Banja Luka and we're leaving Republika Srpska, heading into the 5th part of the Bosnia road trip series, part E, let's call it, into Brčko district, Europe's only free city. But before we get there, we'll see a couple things along the way. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there might be a Spomenik or two. Right now we're heading to an abbey. Those same crazy monks that founded the oldest brewery in Banja Luka, they also make cheese. I'm gonna see if anyone's at the abbey today. It's Sunday. They might be praying. Founded 1869, this was once the largest Trappist abbey in the world. 219 monks. Now there are 2, I read. It's the only Trappist monastery in southeastern Europe. This used to be a statue of St. Bernard, erected in 1920. In 1945, it was thrown into the Vrbas River by communist authorities, so this base is the only thing that remains of the statue. And here's why we're here. The monastery has a little museum in the basement. Here's an 1879 painting, a panorama of the monastery. An 1825 portrait of Abbot Franz Pfanner. These are big ones.
Yeah, but maybe we get like something like this.
We're gonna get this one. Something to do with nuts. What's this? We got some Trappist cheese as well. This doesn't look like the traditional sort we see in the market all the time. And we got some Trappist beers. It's about a 3-hour drive to the free city of Brčko, where this video stops. And we'll see 2 Spomeniks along the way, just to break up the monotony. Minor Spomeniks. welcome to Prnjevor. We just passed a sign that said, welcome to Little Europe. And we're in Little Europe now. So they call Prnjevor Little Europe. It goes back to Austria-Hungary days. There was an earthquake in Trentino, Italy, and Italians accepted an offer to settle here. Some 300 Italians were here before the Bosnian War. They even had their own school. They have a church, Italian Mass. The church has a fresco depicting the Italian migration from Trentino to Prnjevor. But it wasn't just the Italians. Polish people migrated here, Czechs, Slovaks, Austrians. Again, all during the Austria-Hungary days when it was the same, everyone had the same identity documents. So, Little Europe. Post-Bosnian War, even though this area wasn't affected by the war, physically, economically it was, so a lot of the Italians left. Something like 120 left here now. And here we have the 1984 Spomenik to fallen fighters. I can't do this, it's too hot. Yeah, so you had all of these Catholic migrants coming into northern Bosnia, and that was per design by the Austrian Empire, who wanted to reduce the Serbian Orthodox influence in the region. Cafe Roma. I can have an espresso. Cafe Roma. Let's listen. Let's see if we hear any Italian. There are no Italians here. Half-hour drive more to the second Spomenik of today. Okay, last Spomenik on this Republika Srpska road trip. This is by Izet Juzel, 1987. It's a monument to fallen NOB fighters.
Tak se skupijou kaprano jutro kao slab.
Was just driving through the town of Garovac and notice this bell tower. It's a Croatian Catholic church. Plaque here says 1973, so that would date the construction to communist times again. The church is locked, but if it weren't, here's the dress code. Another unplanned stop, village of Kornica, because not the church, but the Spomenik in front of the church. It's like a concrete Burning Man. Just a drive-by in Gornja Slatina. That is a Yugoslav Spomenik, but with a new cross on top. They didn't put crosses on top of their Spomeniks back in the day, obviously. As this sign indicates, we're about to cross into Brčko district, thereby leaving Republika Srpska. So the Republika Srpska road trip, this chapter of the Bosnia road trip is over. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next video.